Next up, we have an attorney, but please don't hold that against him. Because he's a musician, which sort of balances the yin and the yang. Let's please give a warm welcome to Micahel Salkind.
In 1962, I was born an asthmatic, wheezy little thing. And it was all because I was allergic to many things, most of which were animals. I couldn't have any animals growing up because they caused me to have terrible symptoms. And, so, 1989, I was in college in Northern Virginia, and I went on a study tour. The study tour was to the former Soviet Union. At the time, it was actually the Soviet Union. Now it's the former Soviet Union. And during that tour, I met a woman named Shirley, and we became friends on this tour. And we came back to the United States, and we were on the bus from the airport, and ended up locking lips. And,
wow.
Yeah. I don't know how people end up locking lips, but it just happens sometimes.
When you got it, you got it.
There you go. And I did. I got it. And we got home, and we decided we were going to continue this relationship. She told me about the man she lived with at the time, but she didn't live with him much longer after that. We started hooking up. In 1990, I went to law school, as Warren pointed out here, down in Charlottesville, Virginia. I spent a semester down there, and I came back for the Christmas break and spent 3 weeks living with Shirley over the break. And she was living in a house with any number of dogs and any number of cats. I'm not really sure how many numbers kept coming and going. And it didn't work real well. I came back after 3 weeks down to Charlottesville and had an asthma attack that put me in the hospital for 5 days. It was the most severe asthma attack I ever had. And I remember lying in the hospital bed, watching the TV. There were speakers on either side of the bed that sounded like old AM radio speakers. I remember watching the first Gulf War begin. And again, I don't think they called it the first Gulf War at the time. The following semester, or after the following summer in 1991, Shirley moved down to Charlottesville, and we moved in together. She made quite a sacrifice in doing that, not only living with me, but also she gave up her cat. She was quite an animal person. She was much more of an animal person than a person. And she gave up her cat, Avatar, in order to move in with me, and because it probably would have killed me. And I think at that time she was concerned about my health. We got along more or less, depending upon what day. She was very different than me. I'm a very social person. She was not a social person. She was very damaged, and she had a lot of trouble socializing, and she was extremely jealous of everything. She was very jealous of law school, and I know that she knew that I was going to law school and seeing law school prior to getting there, but it was a hard thing for her to handle, and we had a lot of conflict. I tried to break up a number of times, and each time I tried to break up, she'd say, no, I'm going to change, I'm going to become more social, and she would for a period of time. She was sort of very smart, and a good speaker, and she did fine. There was one time where we had just gotten to the point where we were staying together, and I'm a musician. I was playing drums in a band, and she came out, which she didn't usually do, except when she wanted us to stay together. She came to the gig. She was sitting at a table, And I'm playing and I'm watching her, and she starts crying, and I'm very upset because why is she throwing a scene? Again, we've just gotten over this. So we finish the set, and I'm very flustered, and I take her out into the alley, and I'm like, why are you throwing a scene? What is this all about? She said, well, it was the song. It made me sad. It was a sad song. Now, I'm a drummer. I don't know lyrics. So. No idea. Years later, I was driving through the mountains of Colorado. I put RCD on and listened to the song, and by God, it was a sad song. Not a little bit bad. Not my proudest. In the spirit of trying to meet her part of the way, we decided that we were going to try to see if we could have an animal that wasn't going to kill me. So we did the experimentation, and we borrowed a bunny rabbit to see if that would not kill me. And brought it into the house, I pet it, kissed it, licked it, whatever, and it didn't kill me. I mean, this, you can tell, I think. That bunny was a little Dutch dwarf, gray, raggedy little thing with one eye. And, it lived in a house with another bunny, and they apparently had problems getting along. So we ended up getting this bunny. We named him Pat the Bunny. It was after the fine piece of literature, Pat the Bunny. And Pat and I became buddies, and we started to bond. We had this real bonding. Oddly enough, Shirley, who was the animal person, she didn't get along with this bunny. It was very funny. Would bite people, mostly her friends that had acute taste in, literally, I guess, in friends, and it would bite lots of people. But so we got along very well. 1993, I came out to Colorado, took the bar exam, returned to Charlottesville to pack up and come out to Colorado to work. Shirley and I never discussed breaking up. We never discussed staying together, and she just disappeared for 2 weeks while Pat and I packed all our stuff. She was around because her nails moved occasionally. She was stealth. We drove out to Colorado in a U-Haul with a car attached to the back, a bunch of boxes of very ratty old mattress. Some friends of mine always tease me about when you stop at the rest stops and say, hey, kid, do you want to come see my bunny? That's not what happened. I wrote a letter after I got here. I wrote a letter to her parents just saying, you know, sorry I didn't get to say goodbye. I enjoyed knowing you. And I got a letter from Shirley about 3 weeks after that. It was a typed letter, and it began, Dear Mr. Salkind. And it got less warm from that. Pat and I had a wonderful bachelor pad in Colorado. He was the most aggressive, assertive, wonderful little bunny. He'd run around. He ran the apartment, basically. I met a woman who would later become my wife. My first wife, and for the purposes of the story, I'll call her Jan. And Jan and Pat were in keeping with this experimental tradition. We decided that we would see if dogs would work, see if I wasn't going to die with dogs. We started with a Dalmatian, thinking for some reason that might work. And it did. We borrowed a Dalmatian from somebody to see if I was going to die. We brought that Dalmatian home. We were at a stoplight, and I looked in the rearview mirror and saw this Dalmatian trying to kill herself. She had her head out the window and her paw on the button of the window, and she's going choking herself. The good news is neither she died nor did I die, so we got a Dalmatian puppy. That Dalmatian puppy They're extremely inbred. This was a crazy dog who got along well with Pat, oddly enough. They loved each other, even though this dog would bite all people who would come in the door, essentially. This dog, because of its inbreeding, had a blood disorder, which apparently comes with inbred dogs. And about 2 years after we got this dog, he got very sick. I was away. Jan had more guts than I did, and she took the dog to the vet. And what needed to happen happened. I came home and never got to see that dog again. So we then decided we'd try another breed, and we experimented with collies. We did the same thing. We borrowed a collie, and we brought the collie home, and again, I didn't die. And so we got this dog's puppy the next year. We went out and picked up this puppy. We named the puppy Kick the Dog. Sort of a theme. Exactly. Verbs. And Kick the Dog became, at some point, large. Pat the bunny remained small. Pat was an alpha male, and Kick is a passive male. And Kick would come over to the bunny cage and lie down and put his head down. The bunny would come out of the cage and circle around Kick's head, jumping over his head, and then mounting his head. So this little tiny bunny, about the size of the dog's head, would be mounted upon this dog's head. And you didn't know exactly what the bunny was doing except that you could see the bunny's tail vibrating extremely high. And it was the funniest thing. The person I'll call Jan and I we were laughing hysterically. We were not judging their lifestyle. They were not judging our lifestyle. It was a beautiful thing. Pat lived quite a while. He around 2002, 2003, he started to get sick. He started to get some tumors. We had those removed. People would always ask me, how long does a bunny live? And the answer was, we'll find out. And by this point, he was over 10 years old. We don't know when he was born or his backstory. So he became progressively ill. He was still quite a fighter. And at one point, he got an inoperable tumor. And Jan again was the brave one. I'm rather sensitive and can't deal with stuff like this. And Jan took Pat to the vet, and Pat never came home. Thank you.